Okay, so this video is basically about a common problem having to do with cassette players. You could buy a new cassette player, but what I've seen online, at least, is that they're much more expensive than the original cassette players, and it's preferable just to buy a used one because a used one is probably going to have a better mechanism inside of it, and it's probably going to be nicer and cheaper. So about a week ago, I got this off someone used for sale online, and the cassette tape was not working correctly. So what I ended up doing is I had a couple of old belts that I had lying around, and I was able to take apart the component and replace the belts. But the belts don't quite fit correctly. I am getting a good. It is playing well on this one, but on the other deck, it's warbling quite a bit, and I believe it's probably because the belt's not the right size. So I thought I'd make this video on how to take these apart and replace the belts. This mechanism is quite easy. Not going to be too difficult. I'm just going to kind of give you a disclaimer that these type of fixes vary because some models are very complicated, have a lot of small moving parts, so it might not be as easy to replace the belts. So nonetheless, I mean, you gotta basically try your luck with these and open them up and see if it's that easy to replace them. I found that a lot of the Technics brands aren't too bad. This Sony brand, this is probably from like 1996, and let me see if I can zoom in on the model. Model is the TC-WE305, which is basically a model that came out like around 1996. This one wasn't too difficult to take apart, and I'll show the insides of it in a minute. So where you want to start off is you want to take off the screws from the sides. So I already took that one off. Okay, so these just kind of pop off. So sometimes you just have to spread them a little bit from the sides, and they will just pop off. Okay. And see, this is a really sturdy laminate. Okay, and I'll try to zoom in just a bit. All right, so as you can see, the belts are right there, and the other belt is right there. Okay, and there are two belts. If you look at the side, there's another belt right there. I don't know if the camera's catching that very well, but those are the two belts that you need to take apart. Okay, so what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna remove a couple of screws here. You're probably gonna just need to remove the screw from the motor. That way you can pull this out, and then you'll have access to that belt and this belt, because sometimes it looks to me like this belt would probably be the one that goes last, and then this one would be the one that goes first because it's at the bottom. So you put this one first and then that one, and then we'll reattach the motor. But right now I'm gonna go ahead and remove the motor so that I can have that room to work. So I was able to detach the motor. So one of the belts goes on that wheel right there. I don't know if I can zoom it in just a little bit. Okay, so there's a wheel right there that goes where the top belt goes. And then we have the bottom belt that's inside right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove this belt. Okay, so this belt has been removed, and I'm also gonna go ahead and remove this belt. So this belt is new. So I'm probably gonna just end up keeping that. And this belt is very old, and it feels very fragile. Like I feel like if I stretch it too much, I might just snap it. This belt is too old to keep in this machine, so I'm gonna go ahead and replace it with another one. So what I ended up doing is I ended up finding an online center that sells assorted belts. This is what I recommend everyone do, because if you buy these for this specific machine, they tend to cost a lot more money. If you get the assorted bunch, you have a bunch of different sizes, and really all I did was I took the old belt, which is this one right here, and I found one that was as close to this size as I could, and I did find one. Okay, it's not going to be exactly the same size because obviously this is a lot more worn, but this new one has more tension in it, so I'm assuming it's probably going to be the same size. Nonetheless, I'm going to try to test it out right now and see how it does, and then we'll come back and see how that worked out. Let me see. I'm going to try to see if I can get all of this on camera. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the belt that goes inside first. So what you do is all you got to do is slide it in. Okay, and then there's a smaller wheel in there. So all you got to do is try to attach it. Okay, and then I like to just twirl it around just a little bit to see if it's, so that looks like it's on straight right there. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put the belt that was already on there. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that it's in the wheel. So from the looks of it, it is in the wheel. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and inside the motor, there's another little wheel. So I'm going to try to pop that in. Okay, and then we want to, okay, looks like it's hooked on both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and try to make sure that I don't, yep, the wheel got loose again. So this might have a little bit of repetition because it sometimes can pop off. Okay, so this is why it's important to kind of keep one of these magnetic screwdrivers around. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to, all right, so that is basically how it's done. You got your two new belts in there. I'm gonna go ahead and repeat the process with this one. And it's basically just take off the screw from right there and then pull the motor off, and then you can replace both belts right there. So I went ahead and removed the screw there. So I'm just gonna kind of push my thumbnail into that little. So inside the mechanism, or in the frame of the mechanism, little chassis of the mechanism, there's this little clip that you have to clip on, kind of like that. So that's what I was undoing. Okay, so too stretched out, so that was going to be replaced. And then we're going to get something that's closer to that size. Move the other belt. And look how wobbly this one. I mean, there's absolutely no tension there. You know, so that needs to go. It's not gonna work. I'll pull that out. And we'll put our new belts in. One piece of advice that I would give if you're planning to do something like this, make sure that your belts make sure that your belts don't have too much tension, because if they have too much tension, all the same, the wheels won't turn. It has to have just the right amount of tension. Like this, you could wobble it just a little bit so that'll still work fine. You don't want to put a belt that has too much tension, because then the mechanism won't work right. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just repeat the process. This is probably the harder belt to put on, because you kind of have to do it while you're screwing that screw back in, but I'm gonna go ahead and try it again on camera. Goes. Okay, so right now I have it caught to the bottom wheel. Let me see if I can get this one in one try. Put it on top of. Okay. All right, that's not quite in right. All right, so now I have it to the top wheel. All right, there it goes. Just pop back in. All right, good. Got that on the first try. Something glorious about being able to do that. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and screw back this little screw. Hopefully it doesn't fall all over the place. Go ahead and just screw that back in. And I'll just get the regular screwdriver and screw it back in so that it's all the way in. Okay. Okay, that looks like it's on straight correctly. So I'm gonna go ahead and try a tape. I'll get my an amplifier, a couple of speakers to test this, and then we'll see what we get. So when I get new tape decks, it's always advisable to clean the tape head and the pinch rollers and anything else that you can get your hands in there. This one has a very easy access to that. All you got to do is there's like the door panel on there. You just slip it off like that. It comes right off. So what I like to do is I get a 91% isopropyl alcohol and dampen this little ear cotton swab. I dampen the little cotton swab and I start just gently going over the tape head and clearing out any dust or dirt or whatever that might be in there. And there's just, I don't know if the camera can see that, but there's just a little bit, I don't know, this could be like residue from the tapes. So I just like to clean that off. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of dirt that even a tape player that's not too old might have. Okay, I'll go ahead and just repeat the process on the other one too. Okay, so I got the tape player hooked up to a Sony amplifier. This amplifier is a STR-DH130. This is quite an inexpensive amplifier from probably 2011. I found this at a Goodwill for about, actually I found this at a Deseret for about $15. What attracted me about it is that it does have a jack for auxiliary in. This was probably like one of my first stereos that I ever bought recently, I would say probably in the last 3 or 4 years. It's very simple, but it's got a decent sound to it. Right now I have it set up to the tape deck and to these speakers here. These speakers are a pair of Kenwoods that I got off my old home theater, which I retired because I now have Yamahas in my theater room. But they're 3-way. There's a little tweeter there. These are about 4 inches. They have a decent sound, and combined they're about 100 watts. So that's the other speaker there. So I have those hooked up, and we're gonna go ahead and listen to the tape. So if you remember, I mentioned that this tape fluttered quite a bit because the belt was really loose on there. So we're gonna go ahead and try out the sound on that deck first and see how it sounds now. So right now I have my Bend Sound tape. I'm gonna go ahead and pop that in so the door opens quite easily. Okay, I have my tape counter set to 0. So I'll go ahead and play that for you right now. Okay, so from my ears, I cannot detect any fluttering anymore. So this tape shows me that the tapes sound exactly how they should. We'll go ahead and test the second deck. The first deck that we're gonna try for second, originally worked fine. I just ended up replacing the one belt that was really loose. Okay, so that first demo was a bit of a fail because we couldn't get this second deck to work. I figured out that the belt that I put on just was not loose enough, and it's not even a flat belt. It's actually a rounded belt. So that did not really work. I've actually had a problem similar to this before. I had a not a Sony Walkman, but one of those portable cassette players that I replaced the belt in, and the seller sent me a belt that was just like this, really kind of thick, and not a flat belt, but it's kind of like a rounded belt. Well, these belts don't really work for don't really work well for anything that was designed to get a flat belt. So if you go online and you buy these type of belts, you might or might not have problems. I mean, I had problems with the 2 times that I used belts like this. And as a matter of fact, on a Technics cassette deck, I had replaced the belts with belts like these, and it ended up they ended up disintegrating, basically. So I don't know if it was because the tension is too high on these or not, but I wouldn't recommend these because they seem to not work very well. You're better off just getting the flat side belt, which would be something like this. Let me see if I can pop that out with one hand. So what I would recommend is something that is flat like this. I don't know if I can get that to focus. Okay, but you see on that side it's flat. So you want to get these if your machine requires them, okay? So now that we got that sorted out, I'm going to go ahead and play the second deck. So as you can see, those decks are now fully functional. If you run into this type of deck, I think I've made a pretty reliable video. Let's see if I can focus that. I guess I've made a pretty reliable video on how to change the tape belts on these. Just be mindful that I would say you know, 3/4 of the ones that I run into in the wild for cassette decks, 3/4 of the cassette decks I run into in the wild, you'll have to probably replace the belts eventually. I have my Yamaha right now that I have to replace the belts in that machine as well, because I could sense a lot of warbling and the tape deck playing a little slow, so I'm probably gonna have to get in there and replace those belts pretty soon. But that is my video for today, so I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it was helpful if you're looking into buying something like this for your home. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.